From a mixed martial arts savant to a former 3-time welterweight champ, these are the best fighters in the world who aren't in the UFC. Over the years, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, commonly referred to as the UFC, has built a name for itself as the most dominant and well-respected mixed martial arts promotion in the world. Its skyrocketing popularity over the past 2 decades has made holding a UFC championship belt perhaps the highest honor in mixed martial arts. But this might leave casual fight fans thinking that there are no other promotions or world-class fighters outside of the UFC. But this simply isn't true. Great fight promotions such as ONE FC and Bellator have stacked rosters with some of the greatest fighting talents the world has ever seen. Some of these fighters have even had stints in the UFC itself before moving on to another promotion. Take Demetrious Johnson, otherwise known as Mighty Mouse, who fought in the UFC from 2011 to 2018. But Johnson isn't just any fighter. If you ask any true MMA fan, they'll tell you that Demetrious is arguably one of the greatest fighters the world has ever seen. In 2012, he won the UFC Flyweight Championship, and throughout his career, Johnson has showcased an insanely well-rounded fight style, coupled with the sharpest fight IQ, which makes him absolutely deadly in the octagon. I mean, if you watched UFC 216, you know what I'm talking about. The guy threw Ray Borg into the air and snatched an armbar at the same time, submitting him in the 5th round. This guy is out here doing video game moves in real life. He holds the UFC's record for most consecutive title defenses, and in 2018, due to some issues with the company, Demetrious was traded to ONE Championship in exchange for Ben Askren, which turned out to be a pretty bad deal if you ask me. Since entering ONE Championship, Johnson has done what all of us knew he would, and became the ONE Flyweight Champion at 135 pounds. Currently, his record stands at 31 wins and only 4 losses, making it one of the best for any mixed martial artist in the world. But Johnson isn't the only elite fighter who doesn't fight in the UFC. Enter Patricio Pitbull. This guy's resume is absolutely insane. The 35-year-old Brazilian fighter competes in Bellator, and let me tell you, he's had no trouble dominating the competition. This guy is the current 3-time Bellator featherweight champ, and if that wasn't enough, he used to hold the lightweight belt as well. In fact, Patricio is the 2nd ever simultaneous 2-division champion in Bellator history. As of now, he's ranked the pound-for-pound best fighter on Bellator's roster. He's had 40 professional fights in his career, with 35 wins, in 23 of which he managed to finish his opponents. This guy is an absolute savage. He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he's used it well, having won 12 fights via submission. But you can't underestimate Patricio's striking either. Just look at the 11 knockouts he has to his name. Always one to mix things up, Patricio incorporates brutally explosive knees, as well as devastating takedowns into his fighting style, making him not only one of the greatest fighters outside of the UFC, but also one of the most entertaining fighters to watch, period. Now, it's rare that an elite fighter gets the opportunity to fight in the UFC and turns it down, but that's exactly what this next fighter did, and he's had tremendous success, proving himself to be one of the best in the world without MMA's most famous promotion. His name is Bibiano "The Flash" Fernandes. The 42-year-old hails from Brazil and is currently ranked 3rd in ONE Championship's bantamweight division. He's held the bantamweight belt twice, and during his first stint as champion, he set the record for ONE Champion's title defenses, successfully defending the belt 8 consecutive times. Now, if you ever watch him fight, what's likely to catch your eye is Bibiano's creative and devastating grappling. I mean, sometimes it looks like he's climbing his opponents like a tree. And before they know it, they're on the ring floor, tapping out to a brutal submission. Well, his grappling skills should come as no surprise. The former bantamweight champion was a 5-time World Jiu-Jitsu champ and 3-time Pan American champion, before making the transition to MMA. In fact, Bibiano was widely considered one of the best light featherweights of his generation. And all that talent combined with his brutal training has paid off. Bibiano can boast a professional record of 30 fights with a whopping 24 wins and only 6 losses. And it makes sense, considering his background. That of those 24 wins, he managed to secure 9 of them via some eye-watering submissions. I mean, seriously, anyone who gets in the ring with this guy better hope he doesn't grab a hold of them, because then it's a wrap. Now, when it comes to the greatest fighters who don't fight in the UFC, I wouldn't be any good at my job if I failed to mention the extraordinary AJ Mercenary McKee. This 27-year-old California native competes in both the lightweight and featherweight divisions of Bellator. He's built up an impressive resume, proving himself to be one of the most elite fighters in the world. Not only is AJ the former featherweight champion in his promotion, he's currently ranked number 4 in Bellator's pound-for-pound rankings. He's also number 3 in their featherweight division, and number 6 in their lightweight division. The guy's an absolute beast in the cage, utilizing explosive striking and devastating grappling. McKee likes to put a pace on his opponents that they just simply can't handle. Since his professional MMA debut in 2015, AJ has amassed himself one of the most impressive records we've ever seen. Out of 21 professional bouts, he's only lost 1 fight, and of his astounding 20 wins, AJ has knocked out 6 of his opponents and submitted another 7. I mean, come on! You don't put up numbers like that if you're not one of the best in the world. At one point, AJ held the record for the longest win streak in Bellator history, having won 16 consecutive fights. The only guy to beat AJ is a fighter we've previously mentioned in this video, Patricio Pitbull, and he only beat him in their rematch. Speaking of elite Bellator fighters, this list would definitely be lacking if we didn't include Douglas the Phenom Lima. Even if you've never watched a Bellator bout, chances are you've heard this guy's name thrown around. As one of the greatest welterweights of all time, the 35-year-old Brazilian is the former 3-time Bellator welterweight champion. And you don't have to watch too many of his fights to see why. With ridiculously explosive power, Lima uses precise and deadly striking to take out his opponents. And being blessed with this immense talent, Lima has racked up an amazing 32 wins in his professional career, with a whopping 16 of those coming by way of a vicious knockout. He joined Bellator's ranks back in 2011, and more than 10 years and 3 championship reigns later, the guy is still ranked at the top of their welterweight division, with his insane record and amazing fighting ability. If he's not one of the greatest fighters in the world, I don't know who is. So there you have it, folks. From a mixed martial arts savant to a former 3-time welterweight champ, those were the best fighters in the world who aren't in the UFC.